Dark night of the soul is not just a metaphor. It is a real, terrifying event that can make you feel like your whole world is collapsing around you. This is the point at which you question whether you will ever emerge from the darkness, having lost all feeling of direction, identity, and purpose. However, what if this black hole isn't actually a threat? What if it's actually the catalyst for your personal transformation, making you more resilient, genuine, and in tune with who you really are? Even if it appears to be coming to a close, it is actually only the beginning. If you're truly committed to your personal growth, now's the perfect moment to take action. Subscribe to our channel Motivation Basics and like this video if you're committed to improve every day. Don't keep this to yourself and share it with someone who's ready to break through their own barriers today. Let's stop talking and start doing this together. Dark night of the soul is an old expression that may have been coined by the Spanish mystic Saint John of the Cross. Although I am unsure of its actual validity, it has a lengthy history. When someone mentions this experience, it often feels as if they're trying to articulate a profound inner struggle, one that goes beyond mere discomfort, reflecting a deep, often painful transformation within their soul. Feeling like your whole world is collapsing is a common sensation when you start to go through the dark night of the soul. You are faced with the realization that all the things that used to hold significance are suddenly fading away. It may hit like a ton of bricks, or it could sneak up on you like a mouse. Something tragic happens, such as the loss of a loved one or the breakdown of a relationship you believed would endure forever. Everything you clung to before, your identity, your sense of purpose, now seems empty, as if it was never really yours. Right now is when you feel the shadows closing in on you and you start to doubt everything. Eckhart Tolle, in his book, The Power of Now, emphasizes the importance of embracing the present moment as a means to break free from this cycle. He writes, "Whatever you think the world is withholding from you, you are withholding from the world is withholding from the world." This idea encourages us to stop looking outside ourselves for answers and instead to find peace in the now. The darkness you face in the midst of the night may be the invitation to let go of old identities and expectations that no longer serve your growth. The dark night of the soul is a period when a person's sense of purpose in life collapses and a profound sense of meaninglessness explodes into their existence. Indeed, I can confirm that I have also encountered this occurrence. The emotional condition can be strikingly similar to depression in some cases. Perhaps what is medically known as depression or a dark night of the soul, as it is more often described. Sense of emptiness or meaninglessness is the essence of it. To rephrase, nothing is making sense anymore. There is no point to anything you do. Furthermore, there are cases where it is triggered by something outside of oneself, like a tragedy, rather than something happening inside. Feelings of loneliness, miscommunication, and complete disorientation are common at these times. I know what it's like to walk through a fog and feel trapped. That's the dark night of the soul. At one point, I reached a point in my life where I felt like nothing made sense anymore. Following a long period of personal hardships, no amount of snapping out of it or focusing on the positives could make this go away, no matter how many times my loved ones begged me to do so. It was as if my entire being was undergoing an existential cleanse, peeling away the parts of me that were no longer useful. In A New Earth, Eckhart Tolle speaks about the importance of letting go of old identities. You are not the voice in your mind, you are the one who hears it. When you're in the depths of the dark night of the soul, you begin to realize that you are not the sum of your thoughts, experiences, or failures. You are the observer, the one who can witness and eventually rise above the mental chaos. This realization can be the turning point in the journey. It may begin after the passing of a loved one, especially if their death is unexpected. In the event of a child's death, for example, or after you've given your life meaning and purpose, you might describe it as follows. This is what my life is about, encompassing your past, present, and future endeavors as well as your priorities. This means that your life no longer has the meaning you once gave it. This might also be familiar to you. Perhaps you've experienced a time when you felt like you were aimlessly coasting through life, devoid of purpose. Even after all your hard work and meticulous following, you can't shake the feeling that something is amiss. It's like climbing to the top of a mountain only to find that the view wasn't worth it, and you don't feel accomplished after you get there. You could feel forsaken not by other people, but by the significance you once placed on things. That being said, it's not out of the question that it could happen if something happens that you can't seem to explain away, like a disaster that wipes out all the significance in your life. As far as your mind is concerned, everything that you had built up to be true about your life and its purpose has fallen to pieces. This makes it seem as though one is in a completely dark place. You will, however, spend some time in that pit of despair before you emerge from it. Keep in mind that this gloomy hour isn't the final chapter. Something changes if you just sit with it without trying to run away. Here is where the experience's paradox comes into play. By embracing the darkness, you can discover the light that will ultimately guide you out. This doesn't imply you'll feel better right away, but you'll start to realize that there's meaning behind your agony as time goes on. A change has occurred. Your brokenness has put you in a position to rebuild yourself based on the truth that lies deeper within. Tolle also emphasizes the importance of embracing discomfort in the power of now, where he writes, "Accept, then act. Whatever the present moment contains, accept it as if you had chosen it." This perspective aligns beautifully with the dark night of the soul. By fully accepting the current suffering rather than resisting it or wishing it away, you open the door to transformation. The darkness becomes a passage, not a prison, and the suffering eventually unveils itself as a profound tool for personal growth. This moment of deep despair is the critical juncture where many spiritual traditions, including Eckhart Tolle's teachings, encourage surrender. The goal isn't to escape the pain, but to experience it without clinging to it. As we acknowledge that suffering is part of the human experience, we can move through it more freely, rather than becoming trapped in the struggle. The light begins to shine when we let go of the need to control our emotions or our life circumstances. There will be moments, as you continue to emerge from the darkness, when you will start to notice subtle shifts. Slowly, you may begin to feel a sense of peace emerge. Not necessarily from the absence of pain, but from an acceptance of it. There is a profound shift that occurs when you stop fighting your emotions and start observing them as passing moments. Just as Eckhart Tolle teaches, you are not your thoughts or emotions, but the awareness behind them. In those quieter moments, you may begin to experience glimpses of clarity, an understanding that the darkness, the despair, and the pain were never meant to destroy you, but to break down the false constructs of your old self. The old ways of thinking and being no longer serve your highest good. By acknowledging the pain as part of your transformation, you create space for a more authentic version of yourself to emerge. It's important to remember that no matter how dark the night may seem, it will eventually pass. The dark night of the soul often leads to a greater sense of inner peace and a deeper connection to your true self. As you navigate through it, trust that you are not alone. Many have walked this path before you, and their wisdom can guide you toward the light on the other side. Through surrender, acceptance, and presence in the now, you will find that the transformation you seek is already underway. And just like Tolle suggests, by releasing your attachment to suffering and the past, you can finally embrace the freedom that lies within. The dark night of the soul isn't the end, but a powerful beginning. Through it, we learn to let go of what no longer serves us. We break free from the illusions that bind us, and we come to understand the truth of who we really are. And when we emerge, we do so with a newfound sense of clarity, peace, and connection to the present moment. An awareness that Eckhart Tolle so eloquently describes as the key to enlightenment. There is a good chance that you will come out on top in that scenario. Coming out of that might lead to a different kind of consciousness where things are meaningful again, but they aren't perceived as having a conceptual significance that can be simply explained. When people's conceptual understanding of reality collapses, it is usually during the dark night of the soul that they awaken. This isn't necessarily where people wake up from sleep, but it happens pretty often. Here, people have had some of the most profound experiences of self-discovery. After the facades and expectations crumble, what remains is the unvarnished, authentic version of yourself. Imagine all the times you've struck rock bottom and yet managed to come out stronger on the other side. Maybe you learned more about your needs after a breakup. On the other hand, perhaps you learned a new level of resilience as a result of a financial loss. During the dark night of the soul, you are forced to confront your true self without the protection of your imagined past or ideal self. There is strength in vulnerability. A deeper sense of purpose or unity with a greater existence, independent of explanations or anything cerebral, is experienced when one awakens into something more substantial, something that is no longer dependent on mental notion. A new beginning is achieved in this way. In addition, ending your own life is a kind of death that occurs during the dark night of the soul. In the depths of a person's soul's dark night, their egotistical sense of self dies. While it's true that dying is never easy, remember that at that moment, nothing real has died. It's all an illusion. Eckhart Tolle, in his book, The Power of Now, describes how the ego, the false self we cling to, dissolves in moments of intense suffering and personal crisis. He writes, "The past has no power over the present moment." This ties into the experience of the dark night of the soul, where everything you once identified with, from your memories to your future expectations, crumbles. But as Tolle points out, this disintegration opens a space for true consciousness, one that is free from mental constructs. You may begin to understand that your true essence is not the persona you've been constructing for years, but the quiet presence beneath it all. They came to see, in hindsight, that this was necessary because it gave rise to a new self, not a conceptual self, but a more fundamental entity, the awakened consciousness. The black night of the soul has likely been experienced by some individuals who have undergone this metamorphosis. Another thing they found is that a small percentage of the population really must go through it, though, to the point that they try to recreate the dark night of the soul for the sake of evoking a spiritual awakening. Some spiritual traditions go to extreme lengths. In order to trigger that realization, this is done. It was probably a part of the so-called secret schools that ancient Egyptians and Greeks had. These structures were deliberate creations, and a few of them even made it to the Roman era. Rituals and other activities were the defining features of mystery schools. Because they were classified, we don't have much information about them. Few articles were written regarding it. On top of that, one tradition had it that you had to spend a long time in total darkness, sometimes even in a room that looked like a coffin, away from light and company. Someone who has been through the natural dark night of the soul is trying to create an artificial version of it so they may know what it's like to be completely alone when everything falls apart. Whether it's a naturally occurring or artificially induced experience, how many people were able to awaken and let go of their mind-made selves? I don't know, but the tradition persisted for so long, so it must have worked at least to a certain degree. What they describe is very similar, and it is frequently described as the night journey or the descent to the underworld in mythological forms exist. Other mythological forms exist, and they all describe the same basic ideas. They all relate to the same event, which isn't necessarily a bad one. The fact that it exists gives the impression that it is bad, but in reality, it serves a greater purpose. Although it is a component of awakening, not everyone will feel this way. Nothing says it has to be, but it usually is when you're first starting to awaken. What gives rise to a new self is the death of the old self. As Eckhart Tolle explains in A New Earth, the moment you step out of your mind, You are already in a new dimension of consciousness. This insight is directly applicable to the experience of the dark night of the soul. It is often only when we surrender the mind's need to cling to old identities, stories, and beliefs that we experience an awakening. By embracing the suffering and letting go of the ego, the illusion of who we think we are dissolves, leaving behind the potential for profound spiritual renewal. It may not feel comforting in the moment, but there is an inevitable peace that arises from it. In light of this knowledge, you will find that the more you succumb to it, whether it is imminent or already underway, the more quickly you will be able to overcome it. Giving up judgment on something is an essential part of surrendering. Regardless of what you're going through, you're ready to welcome it right now. However, as I indicated before, it is not mandatory for everyone. It is without that many people's awakening journey initially commences. On occasion, you may still experience it after the awakening process has started, and that's when you'll be able to break through. Having said that, it's not an issue. Just go with the flow of life. You don't have to hunt it down, and we don't have to artificially manufacture it either. Consequently, you should not do nothing for days on end while you isolate yourself in a room. That it will be effective is very improbable. It is unnecessary. When discussing miracles, the first thing that is stated is that nothing I see in this room means anything. At the same time, you are to survey your surroundings and make the comment, "This thing doesn't mean anything." Yeah, that's just pointless. From this table, we cannot draw any conclusions. Just what is the relevance of this hand? A class that is structured like this serves no use. In other words, it's not dissimilar to trying to recreate what may occur during the dark night of the soul. The disintegration of a conceptual meaning of existence that was constructed by the intellect. The conviction that you have a comprehensive comprehension of the situation. You willingly give up on the projected meaning that your mind has created and instead declare, "I don't know what this means." The first lesson covers a course in miracles, which is a purposeful surrender. Nothing here has any bearing on anything. You wipe down the board now. As the dark night of the soul approaches, it crumbles. Also, giving up your conceptual universe is strongly encouraged in some spiritual and religious traditions. It is the goal of this exercise to lead you to a point of conceptual, or even meaningless, ignorance, where the cultural and conditioned meaning you once attached to objects begins to fade. You are expected to arrive at this location. When you do, you'll be free to take in your environment without judging it through the lens of your own mental constructions of meaning. Tolle says in The Power of Now, the primary cause of unhappiness is never the situation, but your thoughts about it. The dark night of the soul, much like the teachings of Tolle, forces you to confront the reality that suffering is often magnified by the mind's interpretations. When you surrender to the present moment, free from the mental clutter, you begin to experience life in a new light. What was once seen as a terrible crisis becomes a doorway to deeper awareness. Let go of the mind's need for answers and embrace the simplicity of being. The dark night of the soul is not a punishment, but a profound opportunity for spiritual growth. Stop wasting time and make every moment count in your life. Subscribe to Motivation Basics for daily motivational video on personal growth. Show your commitment by liking the video and commenting the word "grow." Be sure to share it with someone who needs to slow down in life. We're in this together.